Good morning and welcome to the Future of Design and Build. My name is Nathan Brownsword and today we'll be looking at Autodesk Docs and giving you a whistle-stop tour of everything to see within the application. Before I pass over to my colleague, it's always useful just to introduce, I suppose, man and machine for people that join us for the first time, and also some of the areas that we're able to help and support you on. So in terms of the agenda for today, so I'm just having a few issues with my presentation, but I think we're there. So just in terms of the session for this morning, so it's an hour session where we're going to look to give you everything you need to know about Autodesk Docs, and I will be supported by my colleague Mark Calloway, one of the application engineers here at Man & Machine. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions throughout today's session, so please make sure that you do message us in the chat bar that's available at the top of the screen. Call us, go on our website, and also make sure that you follow along on our social media pages we're currently running. There's quite a lot going out in terms of this application and also the wider Autodesk Construction Cloud side. So make sure you are following us and engaging with us to see all the latest bits and pieces. So before I hand over to Mark, just a bit about Man & Machine. So Man & Machine, we operate across the architectural engineering construction side, which is what I'm responsible for, I have a team responsible for. And as well as that, the manufacturing and plant and process industries. In terms of the organisation, we're spread quite thickly around the world. We operate mainly within not Eastern Europe, mainland Europe, across Europe, and we're split over in terms of with our German counterparts going over to Austria, Switzerland. Rest of Europe is really in terms of Italy, France, and some other countries across in Eastern Europe, and a few different offices in different continents all over the globe. In terms of our organisation, we have quite a lot of support from our engineering team. So we have a wealth of knowledge in terms of not only what we're going to show you today, but also in terms of some of the areas that you probably want to have a look at that are a bit more specific, either to what you're doing or to what is required of you in terms of the projects you operate on. So in terms of Man & Machine from a technological point of view, we are Autodesk Platinum Partners. We've been one of the largest partners for a good while now. In the UK, we have grown rapidly. And what that means is we have a really good understanding across their core products, like Autodesk Docs, the collaboration tools that fit into this, but also the, I suppose, the native design environment or native authoring tools, your Revits, your AutoCADs, all the different areas that you tend to operate in and are available in the AC collection. The same is on the manufacturing side, and it's always important that we mention this because in terms of projects we're working on, there's always been that requirement to engage with the product manufacturers from a point of view of providing the information on what they're actually providing, i.e. BIM models for facilities management. And we're starting to connect or see a real connect between suppliers and the supply chain through to the contractor world and then again into the clients and so on. So this, in terms of the way that we work, it does see a lot of overlapping between the two, and we're able to support you and your supply chain. In terms of what's going on at the moment in the construction industry, there's a lot of change going on. If you look at sustainability, if you look at all of the changes in the BIM world, there's a real pressure now for organizations to adopt technology to be able to make sure that they are not impacting the environment in the wrong way, are trying to reduce their carbon footprint, are trying to make themselves more efficient, are trying to make their organization within the UK or maybe around the world an organization that people and clients want to work with. I think it's no secret that the UK construction market at the moment is seen as one that's right at the forefront in terms of its capability. And I think it's important that we start to support our customers or continue to support our customers with the ever-changing landscape that's available in terms of the software. And we're seeing it happen more and more. And today, what we're going to be showing you is something that exactly supports that. So before I hand over to Mark, again, just about the wider tools or the wider areas that we can support you, from our support services, the training, the workflow automation, data management, BIM ready services is a big one as well. We have all the tools to be able to support your projects, not from a technology point of view, but there's many more ways we can do than just that. So when we look at the Autodesk Construction Clouds, we've seen a consolidation of different products and different tool sets into the market. There used to be BIM 360, as it was known, and a load of different options that you had in there. Now they've been consolidated and rebranded into the Autodesk Construction Clouds. And Autodesk Docs is the first part that underpins all of that. So if we look at really where the Autodesk Construction Cloud can support you, it takes you from not only the design function, but into planning, building, on-site, being able to collaborate and communicate with people, all the way up to point of handover to the client. And this is important because if you use a software or use a environment that is able to collate and effectively manage all of your information, then it means that we can then start to actually pass that over. There's no delay in terms of people working off raw models or being able to have like requests or changes not documented. It means that this starts from the first conversation, having that system set up, all the information in there, and then it can be just handed over. Clearly, you want to make sure that the relevant information is handed over and not just doing a data dump, but it means that this is managed effectively and, more importantly, handed over effectively as well. So in terms of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, there's 3 different elements here. So BIM Collaborate, you've got 2 different options there for design collaboration, and more so just if you're not using a design application. Takeoff, which is in terms of, I suppose, quantities and looking at the costs in terms of like the materials. Build is actually connecting with site teams, but all this is underpinned by Autodesk Docs. And then this is what we're going to show you today. So Autodesk Docs is available in certain subscriptions from Autodesk at the moment. I can answer any questions for people that want to know a bit more about that and how that works. But what we're going to show you today is actually how this application has supported so many projects over the last couple of years. And really, I suppose, while we're finding it to be the software of choice amongst our customers and on projects. So Mark, I'll hand over to you. For everyone at home that's watching or on the call today, Mark and I aren't we're not together. I'm in the office and Mark is he's remote from here. So please ask plenty of questions and we'll make sure they filter through if we don't get round to answering today. But Mark, I'll hand over to you if that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Nathan, for the introduction there. Let me get my screen shared. Okay, so just before I get going, I'll quickly introduce myself. So I'm Mark Calloway. I'm one of the application engineers here at Man Machine. I've been working with Autodesk software for just shy of 10 years now, and I've been with Man Machine just short of 5 years. The primary applications I work with is the AC collection, so stuff like Revit and AutoCAD, and Docs is also included in the collection now. So if you're not aware of that, you do have access to Autodesk Docs through your AC collection. And prior to working for Man Machine, I'm from a technical background, so IT and engineering and that sort of thing. So what we want to try and have a look at today. So on Docs, which is part of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, primarily we're going to have a look at creating a new project. We'll then have a look at administrating your project, setting up a folder structure, working with files, uploading files, downloading files, creating issues and all that sort of stuff. We'll have a look at how Docs works with other applications as well, and we'll use Revit as the example there. We'll look at creating reviews, sending transmittals, creating issues on Docs, and looking at those issues and producing reports. So those are kind of the areas within Docs that we'll have a look at this morning. So just before we jump into Docs, kind of a bit of a background as to why Docs exists. So at present, on projects, you'll have multiple teams working. They could be in the same organization, they can be in different organizations, and you'll probably find those teams working different ways. So they'll use different methods for transferring files. Maybe they'll use something like Dropbox, maybe they'll use WeTransfer, emails, that sort of stuff. They'll be working on different applications for communication, again, emails, Teams, all that sort of stuff. So on large projects, you've got different groups of people working in different ways. And there's a cost to all this. So first of all, teams are disconnected. And you tend to find that it's going to be around about 35% inefficiency or waste from those different ways of working with teams. On projects, the disconnect between the office and field is going to account for massive and avoidable reworks, which is going to impact project costs, the quality and delivery time. And then there's also a massive impact at business level as well, from unused and lost project data, which will all reduce potential opportunities, such as portfolio visibility. And the Autodesk Construction Cloud is kind of the solution to all this. So the Construction Cloud is actually a group of modules, Docs kind of being the primary one there. So it does quite a lot outside of what we'll look at today. So what we'll do is we'll jump straight into Docs, and I'll run through the fundamentals that we have there. So Docs being a cloud-based platform we can access through a web browser. My choice of application here is Firefox. And I do have a link saved because I'm a bit lazy at typing in, but the web address is acc.autodesk.com/projects. I can give you that again towards the end, and you'll see that in the web browser once we've signed in. So to access Autodesk Docs, we simply sign into this page using our normal Autodesk account. So if you're already using Autodesk licenses, you should have an Autodesk account already, and we can access that Docs through here. So I'm just going to very quickly sign in as myself. Okay, and as soon as you go to acc.autodesk.com/projects, we should land on the project list screen. So depending on what your permissions are, whether you're an administrator, in which case you're probably going to be able to see every project on the hub, or whether you're one of the users, and depending on which projects you've been assigned permission to, you'll be able to see those and access them on this screen here. So we have our list of projects, and just simply left clicking on them will take us into these projects, and we'll jump into one later on. We'll create a new one, and we'll also jump into an existing one. As you can see, we've got this big create project button here, and so long as you've got permission, you can create new projects. We also have access to creating project templates. You can set these up from scratch. You can base these on past projects. And it just means when you create a new project, you can pick that template, and it just saves you a bunch of work, which is pretty standard from project to project. On the far right-hand side towards the top, we have account administration. So before we get going with creating projects, we'll have a look at administrating this at the highest level. So I'm just going to click on this account administration button here. So kind of starting from the top and working our way down, what we have in the very top left-hand corner is a button here for changing between different modules that we have access to. And once we jump inside a project and we have access to docs, we'll see a few more things in there. To the right of that, we can choose which hub we're accessing. So at the moment, I'm accessing the Man and Machine hub. But should I be a contractor on a project that's been organized somewhere else and they have their own hub, and I've been given access to a project, I can access those through here as well. We have a bit of a menu bar down the left-hand side, and this will update once we're inside Docs as well. It kind of has the same format. Again, we're looking at projects to start off with. And again, we have a list of projects here that we can click and we can access. We can also access archive projects as well. So if you're an account admin and you want to go back and look at a previous project that's been archived, we can access that list here. These lists can get quite long, so we do have a search filter on the right-hand side there that we can access. Below projects on the left-hand side, we can access members. And we can add members at an account level. Okay, I'm just going to click on one, and just so we've got one that's selected, we'll have a CAD user. So we can add members at an account level, we can add members at a project level. By having them added at an account level, we can include it as part of our project templates. So if we have the same people, the same roles, the same organizations involved in our projects, they can be part of the template, and we don't have to set them up every single time. If we want to add a new member, we can simply click the Add Member button, and we'll do this when we create a project. We'll add somebody at a project level, and you can add them into there. Again, you can access your project templates. Additional apps, which we won't go into today. We also have a settings button where we can access basic settings for the hub. And as well, because you might have historic projects in BIM 360, we can also go into our BIM 360 admin and admin on the BIM 360 side of things. So we'll create a new project. So I'm going to go back to project and I'm going to hit the create project button. We get a screen where it's going to ask us for some basic information. Some of it's mandatory, some of it we don't have to fill in now and we can add later on. For this example, I'm just going to call this one, let's call it 32,000 docs 101. Okay. We can give the project a number. Again, I'm just going to call it 32,000. We're going to add it to the Man and Machine account. And we're going to choose what type of project this is. Again, it makes it easy for organizing and your projects and looking at historic information. I'm just going to pick a single family housing for the type here. Again, if you've got templates set up, you can access the template here. And when it creates the project, it's going to add in those members. It's going to add in your folder structures, your permissions, all the stuff that you've added to your template. We won't have a template. We'll set it up from scratch. I'm not going to fill in any more information there. I'm just going to simply hit create project. Should only take a few seconds, hopefully. And the Autodesk Construction Cloud has now created this new project, and it's automatically taken us inside it. Okay, so we're currently looking at project admin, but if I click on this button again, I can always switch out back to my account admin that we were just inside. Again, to the right, if I want to change the project that I'm accessing, that I have permission to, I can click on here and switch between different projects. So at project admin level, first thing it wants us to do is set up our members. Because I created the project and I'm the admin, I'm automatically added onto here. On the right-hand side, I can see information such as what company I'm part of, and again, that can affect permissions. We can assign roles, again, that can affect permissions. What our level of access is, and the products that we have permission to use. At present, these are all turned off. And you can see at the top, we have access to Docs here, which currently isn't enabled against myself. If I go to this project admin button, Docs currently isn't in there. But if I enable this, and it does take a few seconds for that to filter through, but shortly we'll see Docs in this list once that's fully applied. I'll add a second member to this project, and I'm just simply going to click the Add Members button. We add members based on their email address, and I'm just going to add one of my colleagues into the window here. You can add multiple people in one go if you need to. Again, we can assign them to an organization, and we should find Man and Machine in the list, and I can choose what role that person's going to be. I can choose whether they're simply a project member or whether they're a project administrator and have administrative abilities. I can choose which products I want to invite them to. Click the Add button, and it will add that user into the project, and it will send them an invite. If I just go back to this button in the top left-hand corner, we can see now that we've given it a few seconds, we have access to Docs on this project. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Docs. And that went well there, didn't it? Okay, let's try that again. So let's find the project in the list. Let's stick it in alphabetical order. Let's click on the project and jump back in there. There we go. Okay. So we're now looking at the Docs part of this project. Again, down the left-hand side, we have a menu. This is where we can access files. We can set up a folder structure, permissions, and all that sort of stuff. We can access reviews. So if you have some sort of process for reviewing and approval, we can set that up, whether it needs to go through one person, through two people, a team of people, all that can be done. We can set up transmittals if you want to share specific files or groups of files. We can review our issues, which we'll see in a moment. We'll create some issues on some sheets, for example. You will be able to see those on the issues screen. As an admin, we'll be able to see all issues, but as a user, you would see the issues that have been assigned to yourself. You can create reports. So if I want to get basic information about the project, we can set up reports. You can schedule reports as well if you like the same report regular, and we can get that set up. And again, being admin, I can access members and I can access settings. So now that we're in Docs and we're looking at the files, we have this list of files here. At the moment, we just have this project files folder. If I click on these three little dots just to the right, I get a menu that pops out. There's a variety of stuff we can do in here. First thing I'm going to do is add a subfolder. Maybe this folder is going to be for the architectural side of things. Maybe we'll have an architectural folder, a structural folder, electrics, plumbing. For this example, we'll just create an architectural folder. Click the little plus button, or the tick, should I say, and we have a new folder. If I select that folder and click on the three little dots for architectural, we can control the permissions, who has access to see this. Not only can we control who has access, we can control the level of access they have as well, whether we simply want them to just view files that are in there, whether they can upload, whether they can download, whether they can make changes. If I go into permissions, and I'll add my colleague Gareth into here. Okay. We can choose his permission level. So as mentioned, we can simply give him the ability to view files. Maybe we want him to also be able to download them. Maybe we want him to be able to upload files as well and modify those files, creating issues, adding markups and stuff like that, we do have a variety of levels here. Maybe I'll choose edit, and you can view files, you can download, publish markups, and do most things, shy of having full administrative control. Click the add button, and Gareth can now access this folder. Permissions are or can be inherited. So if I create a subfolder to this architectural folder, maybe we'll split it by file types, or maybe we'll have a DWG folder. You could have a Revit folder, PDF folder. Those permissions will be inherited. So that's kind of creating folders through the web page. What you can also do is on your computer is install a little app where you can access these projects through your Windows Explorer. If I just grab a different window that's off screen at the moment. If you've got the desktop connector installed on your computer, you'll get access to your Autodesk Docs through a Windows folder. And it behaves very similar to most other Windows folders. We can create folders, we can rename folders, we can add files in there. So long as you've got permission, we can do it through Windows. So again, I'm going to access the Man Machine Hub, and I should be able to see in here, hopefully, let's just give it a refresh, 32,000 Docs 101. I can see my project files. I can see the architectural folder that I've just created, and I can see the DWG folder there. Just like with any other Windows folder, I can right-click in an empty space, select new folder, and I can create a new folder. You can see it's instantly appeared in my web browser. Maybe this is going to be our PDFs. Add that in there. And again, in the background, you can see that instantly applying to the project. And we'll come back to the desktop connector in a moment. So one of the next things you're probably going to want to do is add files. We can do that through the web browser. We do have an upload button on the screen here. So whichever folder you've got selected, for example, I have, let's select the PDF folder here. If I click the upload button, we're going to get an upload window. We can then navigate to the file that we want to add, and it will upload it. Also as well, if I just minimize that to one side, and I'm going to grab yet a different Windows folder. Okay. We can also simply drag and drop files onto the web page. If I select this PDF of a floor plan here and just drag that across onto the screen, let go, it's going to want to upload that file. Now, typically something's gone wrong there. Let's just hit the retry button and see if that fixes it. Looks like it's gone through that time. Okay. And that's going to start uploading that file from our computer. If I click the done button, I don't have to keep that window open. I don't have to stay on the same folder. I can continue working in Docs. And if it was a larger file, it would just continue uploading in the background. As well as adding the file through the web browser, again, if I just bring back up our folder through the desktop connector, we'll go into our PDFs folder. I can choose the files I want to add. I'm just going to do a simple copy and paste there. That's going to add them into this folder through the desktop connector. And again, in the background, that's being processed, and eventually they will appear in Autodesk Docs. And we can see those processing there. There we go. Okay. We also have control of versions. So now that we've added a few files onto here, we do have a column for versions, and we can see that these are all version 1 files. Okay, we'll come back onto that in a bit more detail in a moment when we jump into another project. Something else just to mention whilst we're looking at folders here is on the far right hand side, we have this icon that looks like a gear. If we click on there, we can choose what attributes we have against our files. We can also create our own custom attributes as well. If I just click on attribute settings and click the create attribute button, we can create our own custom attributes. So if there's anything specific that you need to add into here, we can do so. We have some control as well. We can choose the length of the attributes that people can enter. You can have any length, you can have a specific length of characters. We can have a range, so it needs to be between 5 and 7 long. And we can choose the type of characters that are used. We can also control naming standards as well. I'll just cancel that and come out of this. Okay. So what we'll do now is I have another project that's set up with a Revit file already loaded. They do take a few minutes to upload, so I've kind of already done that one in advance. I'm just going to very quickly change project to one that's set up with some of the stuff that would take a bit of time that we don't have on this live webinar. Here we go. Okay, and you can see that with a bit of time, we've set up a much more detailed and organized folder structure here. Again, I have an architect folder divided between the different file types here. If I just jump into PDFs, and we'll just have a look at some of these files because you can view them through Docs. Okay, and we'll start with the PDFs. You can see here that we have a PDF or a floor level. And you'll note that this time there's 2 versions. So this has been updated at some point. You can compare different files and different versions of files, and we'll see that in a second. If I click on that file, Docs is going to open that up in the web browser. There's a number of tools that we have at our disposal here. So just to kind of go through the user interface, we do have a bit of a menu on the left-hand side. We have some tools towards the bottom, and we have more tools towards the right-hand side. We have a few little icons up here as well. Just to briefly go through those, if you have multiple sheets or views in a file, you can click this Sheets and Views button, and you can just simply click on them in the list and go straight to them. Layers as well, probably more relevant for a DWG rather than a PDF. But if you've got layers set up, you can turn on and off the visibility of certain layers. And we'll jump into a DWG and take a quick look at that. We can view any markups that have been added. That's currently empty because I've not added any yet, but we'll add a few and we'll see those appearing in the list here. Also, any issues that have been raised on this file, we'll see them listed here. Towards the bottom, we have some navigation controls. I won't go through everything in detail. We don't quite have the time today, but you can pan, you can zoom extent, you can zoom to a selected window. You can measure as well. And if you've got a 3D view, we can also section that as well. And if we have time when we jump into the Revit file, we'll have a quick look at that. Towards the right-hand side, we have some markup tools and some issue tools as well. For example, I'm just going to select this pen icon here, and it's just a free drawing tool. So if I just want to scribble some lines on there, I can do. Obviously, you do something a bit more productive than that. If we need to add some text into the view, you can click Add a Text Box, and you can type some text into there. You can add clouds as well. So if you want to highlight a specific part of the project, maybe we'll zoom in on these doors down here, and I can create a cloud over these two doors. Maybe they need to be moved or the type changed or something. Again, with all these tools, we do have controls over the thicknesses of the lines, the color of the lines, and transparency and those sort of things. So we have a number of markup tools at our disposal. We can add issues directly into this file. If I click the Issues button, I can choose the type of issue I want to create, maybe a clash. I can pick where that issue is, and Docs is going to create a new issue. We can see it in the list of issues on the left-hand side. And with the issue selected, we can add information to that issue. We can assign it to people. We can add some detail in there when this issue is due for, all that sort of information. Once we've built up these issues and we come out of the file and back onto the Docs main screen, when we go onto issues there, we'll be able to see those. Okay, maybe I'll add a second one in somewhere else as well. So let's click the Issues button and pick a different type of issue. Just place something there. We've got a couple of issues in this view now. Right in the very top right-hand corner, we can compare files. If I click the Compare button, we get this window appear. You can change the files that you're comparing, or if you have multiple versions of the same file, we can look at what's changed. We have two versions, and we can see that we're going to compare version 2 with version 1. Hitting the Compare button, the view should update, and it should color code anything that's changed. We can see the color code as red for the version 2 file and blue for the version 1. We can see that between these two versions, this interior wall, the doors around it, and even the tags have changed between the two files. So a very useful tool at seeing what's changed between different versions of files. We'll come out of the PDF. We'll take a quick look at a DWG, just simply so I can show you the layers, and then we'll have a look at a Revit file. So we'll change to the DWGs folder. I'm going to select the DWG, and Docs is going to display that DWG in the web browser. Again, we get access to pretty much all the same tools. We can compare, we can add markups, we can add issues, and all that sort of stuff. This file has layers associated with it. We can access the layers through the Layers button. We can turn these on and off, just simply clicking the icon here for the visibility, and we can control what we can see and what we can't see. Okay. So those are 2D files. So let's take a look at a 3D file. I jump to my Revit files, and I've just used one of the sample projects that comes with Revit for this demonstration. Again, I'm just going to left click on it. And Docs is going to generate the 3D model. And it performs fairly good. We can pan around, we can rotate, we can section, we can select elements, access the properties, and all that sort of stuff. Again, down the left-hand side, if you've got sheets and views set up, we can access them on the left-hand side. We can also select different levels, and the view should crop down to those specific levels. Okay. We have some navigation tools at the bottom again. We can orbit, we can pan, we can fit to view, we can zoom to extent. Even have a first-person mode. So if you want to walk around your project, you can do. And we have our section tool here. You can add a box section, so you get all 6 planes that you can manually adjust and crop. Or you can add planes onto specific axes. Again, you get this little widget here, and we can drag that through the model, and we can crop it to the extent that we want to crop that down to. Again, on the left-hand side, if we've added issues, they will appear here. And we also have access to the model browser. So again, a little bit like layers, we can turn things on and off. We can also select elements if they're not cropped out of the view, and Docs will take you to those components. Okay. So we'll have a look at how Docs works with other applications. For this example, I'm using Revit. So let's get Revit open. And if you have access to Docs from the home screen, we have this Autodesk Docs option on the left-hand side. From there, you can navigate the Docs folder structure just like you can in the web browser and just like you can through the desktop connector. I can see that very same Revit file that we were just viewing on the web browser. And I'm just going to click on that. And this is in the cloud, so it's downloading through my internet connection straight into Revit. It should just take a few seconds for that to open. There we go. So if you want to be able to view your projects from anywhere where you've got an internet connection, you don't want it to be stored locally on your computers or in an office somewhere, you want people from different locations to be able to access your files. We can easily open those from Docs. As well, if you have Collaboration Pro, which are other modules for the Autodesk Construction Clouds, you can even set up central models. You can have multiple people working on the same files at the same time, all off of Autodesk Docs. So open up your projects is just as easy as that. I can then continue working in my application like I always do. Maybe I'm just going to move a door in this example. It's going to move. Let's just shimmy that up a little. It doesn't seem to like that door. Let's select this one. Can we move that one? Nope, you don't want to move that one. Let's move that on the walls. It looks like the constraint to the wall there, maybe. There we go. So I can move that wall just a bit like what we had in that compare for the PDFs. I can move that up. I can simply hit the save button like I always do, and that's going to save this file back up onto the cloud. And again, that's just going to take a couple of seconds. There we go, successfully saved. If we just jump back out of this, I'll just simply minimize that out of the way. We'll have a look at some of the other features that we have on Docs. Again, I'm conscious of time here. So as well as your files and your folders, we can create review processes. If I just click the create button here, let's select a file. Okay, and we can send that off to be approved through whatever process that we've got set up there. I think for this one, it's just a one-step review. So you'd specify who is responsible for approval, and then this would not so much be sent to them. It all remains on Docs, but they'll be notified. They'll have a new review to review, and they can either say yay or nay on that. Okay, and again, you can create your own review processes. So if it needs to be one step, if it needs to be two-step, if you need a team of people to approve it, if you need two specific people to both approve it, you can set that up. We also have access to transmittals. So if we want to send groups of files to people, maybe we've published the latest Revit model along with a couple of PDFs, we can create a transmittal. We can choose the files that we want to send. Again, maybe I'll pick a couple of PDFs here, and we can choose who that's going to be sent to. We can give it a name. I'll give it a nice sensible name. Maybe we'll send this off to Gareth. We can add a message if we wish to add a message, and we can also choose what permissions they have. And they'll get a notification now that they've got access to these files. Also as well, just whilst we're on the issue of transmittals, If I just jump back to where we have a file. Okay. On the end of this file, we've got these three little dots. You can share files outside of Docs, so to speak. We can choose whether we send an email or we send a link. Again, this can be controlled at a project admin level, whether you want this feature to be enabled. You can also control settings such as how long a link is valid for before it'll expire as well. So again, another level of control on who can access and how long access is available for. If I go to issues, we can see the issues we created in the PDF earlier. As an admin, I can see all the issues on the project. We can filter, so you can control what you're looking at if you need to. As an end user, you would see these issues if they were assigned to yourself. We can set up reports. Okay, so if you want regular notifications on how many outstanding issues there are, that sort of stuff, we can create a report, and we can even set a schedule so that it'll automatically email us. Maybe we want a daily report, maybe you want a weekly, we can set that up. Again, we have access to the members area, which we've kind of already seen. We have this bridge feature as well. If you want to kind of connect to other projects, transfer files between them, we can set up a bridge between projects. Okay. And again, lastly, we have settings down here. So that kind of covers the bulk of the user interface there with Docs. Okay. So we'll leave it there. I could go into a lot more detail if we had a lot more time. It is well worth looking into. As mentioned, you do get a Docs license with the AC collection with Autodesk. So if you've got the AC collection, you'll have access to a Docs license already through there. So I'll leave at this point. I'll hand back over to Nathan, and I'll let him conclude this webinar for you now. Thank you all for watching. Back to you, Nathan.
Thank you very much, Mark, for taking us through Autodesk Docs this morning. I'll just share my screen, so just to go through a few bits and pieces. So I think it's quite obvious from what Mark's showing, and in terms of what we're hearing from our customers at the moment, that to get to the level in terms of what Mark is showing you, it's important that you configure and you set these environments up. And I'm not going to talk to you or go through the finer detail of how Man and Machine can support you, but I think it's really important that you start to actually configure the folder setup, the folder structure. Mark mentioned about issues or reports, being able to automate those. And I think before you start to let different members of the teams access in the application, even when it comes down to like setting their permissions up and users and all that type of thing, you do need to get that nailed. And I think that will save you so much time in the longer run. And I think it's something that we've certainly seen over the last couple of years since Autodesk Docs has really, well, we've seen a real surge in terms of popularity of the product. So I think my advice certainly is, I'm sure there's going to be some questions, but in terms of like what to do and best ways to go and apply this software, I think it's making sure that you have it all set up how you want it to do, or how it want it to be. And it can be a couple of projects, folder structures there, the permissions, the users added, just a way that you're going to work, an agreed workflow, so to speak. And then from there, we can obviously look to get the team on board, whether that's with us or whether you look to take that on internally, then that's a decision for yourselves. However, if there are any questions, then feel free to get in touch with us. I think the only thing that I'd like to add is just actually about our future events and webinars. So we do run these quite regularly, and for the reasons that with customers asking about certain products and looking into a bit more detail before they really start to engage us, so to speak. But what have we got running over the next few months? So the Future Design and Build series continues. I am back just over a week's time. So on the 25th of April, and we will be looking at all the 2023 updates. So Autodesk has been quite busy over the last few weeks releasing or announcing additions to Revit. Revit 2023 is here, AutoCAD 2023. We've seen a few bits in terms of the construction cloud as well, but we're going to give you a real snapshot of the core products there on Monday 25th. So we'll be back then showing you almost what's new in the 2023 applications and explaining all of the updates. In terms of across the rest of the year, our Revit Starter series continues. I think we're now on to our 4th edition, or we're coming up to the 4th part of our 12-part series there. So that's been really, really good. We've had a lot of feedback on that, and I think it's really aimed at anyone that's new to Revit. So if you do have people in the team, or even it might even be people outside of the business that are looking at Revit, this is great. It segments it down into bite-sized chunks, half-an-hour calls, and you can look at all the different parts of Revit, but also some of the applications that plug into Revit that make it so powerful as an application. We also have our other training events that we're running. So just like this, looking at Autodesk Docs, showing you some of the key features, and because most people actually have it available to them in their subscriptions, you can go away and have a play with it. So we've got some more coming going into later in the year. And we are in the final stages of announcing our first live event, in-person event, for well over 2 years. I think it was 2019 that we had our last event that we invited people to. It's going to be around about September time. There'll be more details to follow. So as always, follow us on the socials and make sure you're checking in with us. You'll probably receive a mailer from us if you're signed up, or one of our customers. You should be getting that information through. But as always, there's a registration link on our website, www.manandmachine.co.uk. If you go to the About Events part on there, you'll be able to see everything that's coming up. So finally, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us this morning. If there's any questions, feel free to come through to us on the phone. I'm around, the team around today before the Easter weekend. I know Mark's around, and he's had a few bits that we're going to go back to a few customers on shortly. But I hope you enjoyed the Easter weekend. Have a good break, and we'll see you soon. Take care.